Okay. Okay. So, in how many ways we can call our fx method in LWC?
Two ways, using wire we can call, and using imperative approach we can call Apex classes in LWC.
Okay. Can you tell me when to use which one with any example?
Sure. So let's say if we just wanted to display a list of records with custom, let's say we want to display the account, contact, and cases, all the three things in LWC component, we can use wire method to read the data from the controller and we display it in the LWC. Let's say if you want to perform ETML operations, include insert, update, delete, we can use the imperative approach. Let's say like if on a button click we want to send some information from LWC to controller and create it over there, we can use that imperative approach.
Okay. Okay. So, can you tell me about the lifecycle hooks of LWC?
So lifecycle hooks are nothing but the component stages at every trigger phase. So these include the constructor. Constructor is invoked when the component is inserted into the DOM. So mainly it is used to initialize the values or set the default values. We won't perform much complex things over there. Second is connected callback. So connected callback is invoked when the component is inserted into the DOM. So in connected callback, we perform the logics like fetching the data from the controller to the LWC, or sending the details from LWC to the its controller. And the third thing is that rendered callback. Rendered callback is invoked when the component is rendered into the DOM. So we normally use rendered callback to manipulate the DOM elements in LWC. And the next one is disconnected callback. So disconnected callback is invoked when you disconnect the components from the DOM. So we generally use disconnected callback to clear up the space, like unsubscription of the events and everything we will do in the disconnected callback. Error callback, final thing is that error callback. Error callback is invoked when error occurs in the DOM. So any error mechanisms, we will put it in the error callback.
Okay. Can you explain me the concept of data binding in LWC?
Yes. So LWC supports one-way data binding. So let's say if we have a parent-child component, from parent we can pass the variables or the properties from parent to child. But in turn from child we cannot pass the properties or function directly to the parent like the way it came from the parent. So we have to fire up the event. So through the event only we will pass the parameters to the parent component in LWC.
Okay. So can you tell me the use of this track decorator?
Yeah. Track decorator is a private decorator. So private decorator plus reactive. So so it is used to track the non-primitive objects like objects, arrays, and everything.
Any specific use of this using track decorator, as by default now all the properties are reactive, right?
Yes. So like I mentioned, Salesforce has made it all the properties reactive. So if you want to track the non-primitive things like data types like objects, arrays, we can use the track decorator.
Okay. So in the custom events, okay, first tell me what are custom events and when we use them. Okay.
Custom events like let's say when we want to pass any parameters or functions from child to parent, we will use custom events and we have to dispatch it from child to parent.
Okay. So what type of parameter we use to pass in this custom event?
So we will pass the event name. Plus, if you want to pass any parameters, include like any specific data types, we will use details in there. And inside the details field, like we can pass our data to the parent from child.
Can we pass the S objects also here?
I think so, yes.
Okay. Okay. So have you worked on the lightning message service?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Please explain me.
So, lightning message service, before lightning message, there is a concept called PubSub API. So PubSub API is used to communicate to the lightning events which are inside the DOM, but LMS has been introduced as its successor to communicate to the components which are outside the DOM, which means you can communicate to the components which are not even in the hierarchy, like LWC to LWC, LWC to Aura, or LWC to Visual Post Page. So this is where Lightning Message Service comes into picture. Yep, this is all short intro about LMS.
Okay. What is the difference between getter setter in LWC?
Yep. So getter is first of all, LWC won't support the expression handling. So which means like we cannot put expressions like we do it in our components in the if, like if so and so we cannot perform certain logics. So for that we will use getters in the JavaScript, and we will return something from the JS to the component, and we can use that as a binding element to control the logics. Setters is something which we will receive from the component to the controller, and we will change certain things. Yeah.
Okay. Have you worked on the promises also?
Yes, I worked on the that imperative. This wire call using the promise. Sorry, I was confusing. So this imperative call, we used to use promises, right?
Okay.
So that part I worked on.
Okay, so what are promises and what different functions we have in this?
Yep. So promises are nothing but an object which will give 3 states: promise pending, resolve, or reject. Okay. So promises are generally used in the world of asynchronous JavaScript, because JavaScript is synchronous and single threaded, right? So let's say we are making imperative call to the Apex controller. So we use the promise. Okay. So as a result of the promise will return in 2 states, like that is resolve, then keyword. So in the then we will perform our logics, like whether to display it in the UI, or we can do certain logics over there. Catch is something like if there is any error, catch will get captured and it will display it for our purpose.
Okay. So can we make the callouts from LWC?
Yes, we can.
Is there any best practices we should keep in mind while integrating with the external system?
Let's say if we can make integration, we can make a call to the integration systems in 2 ways. Whether we can pass the parameters from your LWC component to the controller, and you can make the callouts over there, or without even making a call to the controller, we can just use that fetch method in the JavaScript to make a call out to the external systems. If it is a very if you're making a generic callouts to like generic APIs like Google Maps or something, you don't need the controllers. So you can make a call out to the APIs using fetch method in the JavaScript controller of LWC itself. Or if you want to perform any complex logics, like in your Salesforce databases, you can use the Apex controllers to perform that logic.
Okay. Okay. So what are reusable LWC components?
Yes. So there is a concept called separation of concern, which I used to follow. So which means like we should not put all our logics in one component. So let's say we have a toast message component, so which will be used by all the components. Let's say we have 10 components. If it is success, we used to send a toast message. If it is a error, we used to send a toast message. Means we will keep the toast message logics in one component without any HTML, and we can delete the HTML element. We can just keep the JavaScript part, and we can export that details. Okay, let's say if we want to perform any logics in that, we can export that details from it, and we can in our main LWC component, and using the import keyword, we'll use that exported contents, and we can make use of it in the main LWC component. So that way, all the logics are separated, and we will make use of it in the required places only.
Okay. And what are the best practices to write this reusable LWC components?
Best practices include definitely we should not keep more logics in the in the reusable component also. If it is very small and repetitive tasks, we can keep that in the that reusable component, and we need to use that import keyword, and we can make use of it in the main component.
Okay. Okay. So what is the purpose of Lightning data services in LWC?
So Lightning data services are nothing but sits on the top of the Salesforce UI. So using the Lightning data service, we don't even need the Apex controller to view the record, to create a record, to edit a record, to update a record. So we can just make use of that by default, that Lightning record forms to perform the DML operations in the LWC itself.
Okay. And anything related to securities or sharing?
Yes, the LWC respects the field level security. So if the current user is not having access to the particular field, like let's say name in the contact, so that LDS component will not show the name component in the UI. And this LDS uses the cache. So it basically optimizes the caching mechanism. So whatever the values available in the, so let's say whenever the component loads, the LWC component fetches the related record configured in the LDS and store it in the cache, and it will make use of that cache to fetch the data and perform the subsequent logics.
Okay. Do you know about the Shadow DOM?
Yes, a little bit. Yeah.
Any difference of this Shadow DOM from the traditional DOMs?
Yes, Shadow DOM is nothing but a DOM inside a DOM. So any operations which we perform in the Shadow DOM, which will not leak across its boundary. So that's the basic difference between DOM and Shadow DOM.
Okay. So is there still a need of Aura components? Do you know any scenario or any requirement where we still require this Aura component instead of LWC?
Yes, one thing which came to my mind is like LWC supports only one-way data binding, but Aura supports two-way data binding. So so let's say if we want to make if we have two components which is in parent-child relationship. So from parent we are passing certain parameters to the child. Okay, we don't even need to create an event. So if we use that bounded expression, so whatever changes happening in the child will automatically reflect in the parents. So for this purpose, Aura stands still alone from the LWC.
Yeah.